So, welcome everyone to this conversation about letting go. I'm here with three teachers from within meditation, Kimberley Cooper, Jonathan Borella, and Stephanie Osborne. And we're going to be talking all about letting go for the next hour. But before we get into that, we're going to bring ourselves into the present moment with a little bit of meditation. And Steph, thank you for offering to guide us in that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah. So, I'd like to invite everyone to just settle into their bodies by starting with an alert and awake posture. So, reaching your crown towards the ceiling, allowing your shoulders to drop away from your ears, and then sinking into that position, allowing your belly to become soft and softening your forehead and the space between your eyebrows. Turn your awareness to your breath, noticing the temperature of the air that enters your nostrils as you breathe in, noticing the temperature of the air that escapes your nostrils as you exhale out. Beginning to make your inhales longer and deeper. Slowly controlling your exhale out through your nose. And just noticing, even with your eyes closed, the temperature and the space that you're in. The sounds. Notice your breath. Lengthening your breath in. Extending your breath out. Noticing the natural pause between your breath in and out. Just take a moment to let go. Let go of any judgments you might have about yourself or others or this practice. Just for this hour, letting go of your list of things to do. And really allow yourself to be here in this moment. Take a slow breath in through your nose and an audible exhale out through your mouth. And when you're ready, allow your eyelids to float open. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steph. I would love to now invite each of the three of you who are a part of this conversation today to share a little bit about yourselves, introduce yourselves. And Steph, would you be willing to start us off?
Yes, thank you. I'm Steph Osborne. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm married to an awesome artist. I have three beautiful kids, and I am a meditation guide and yoga instructor in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Thank you. How about you, Jonathan?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Borella. Um, I live in a small town in Northern California called Ukiah, where I came to do pottery and start a small mindfulness residential community. The background I'm coming from is the Plum Village community of engaged Buddhism. I found the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh in 2005 and ordained in that tradition as a lay member of the community. And I've also branched out into the early writings of Buddhism recorded in the Pali Canon and have found a lot of overlap between those traditions and my training and work in behavior science. And so I like to weave all those together to create systems and strategies for living really resilient and fulfilling lives. So I offer that for within Saturday mornings and here in the local community in the form of martial arts and mindfulness training to youth in underserved schools and who are incarcerated also. I'm really happy to be here with all of you and exploring this path together. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. How about you, Kimberly?
I'm Kimberly, and I live in Houston, Texas, via Scotland, and I'm still working on the Texan accent, as you can tell. It's an interesting one for me, these labels, because I've always thought labels are for wine bottles up until this moment. And so I'm never sure how to address myself, because we all have thousands of different facets to us. So, but here and now, in this moment, I'm going to say that I'm a storyteller, and I love to tell stories, and I love the stories to be heard. And hopefully, in the stories, there's a wee nugget, something that you can take away and apply to your own life.
Thank you, Kimberly. I'm so glad all of you are here. Well, why don't we start by talking a little bit about how and why, really, why letting go is at the core of so much meditation practice, so much of what we teach as meditation teachers, and of the traditions that we draw on when we do that teaching. So which of you would like to start out by sharing why you think letting go is so central to your practice and what you teach?
So the letting go, at first I was thinking, what is the polar opposite of letting go? Will it be holding on? So, like if you're involved in a game of tug of war and you're both resisting and you're both holding on to either end, the best way to kind of release yourself from that hold is to let go, is to find that middle ground, that place between all dualities that kind of serves you and your body. That's what I would say letting go is. I think it's a body awareness thing as well. You have to know and feel what's going on in your body in order to know that there's something even there to let go.
Thank you, Kim. For me, it's just one word, and it's freedom. Holding on does not feel free. It feels like you're grasping. And when you just let go, there's this, initially, it may not feel like freedom, but once you sit with it, and like you mentioned, Kim, just feeling it in your body, the discomfort of the idea of letting go, because we hold on because there's something that we feel is safe, even if it's painful. Sometimes we're just holding, like we'd rather this pain that we're familiar with than the pain that we're unfamiliar with, or the pain that, it's really interesting how we have this pain, we're already carrying it. That's why we're considering letting it go, because what we want to let go of doesn't serve us. But the idea of the other pain that we're avoiding allows us to hold on, to keep this pain of just letting, holding on to it. So, yeah, there's a
So
freedom in
that, you have to cultivate awareness around that to know that there's a place somewhere that needs to be letting go of. So you can go for decades with something in your body that needs to be let go of, and you're not even aware it's there.
Absolutely.
So you do, in the letting go process, you have to know if there's something there to be let go of.
Right. And some folk hold on to, will let go. Let's just be clear that some people are really good at letting things go. They let things go sometimes when they should not let things go. So this isn't for them that are just habitually moving on without sitting with, because some people dissociate and let go of things so that they don't have to deal with what is. So we're not talking about that letting go. We're talking about becoming aware of what doesn't serve us, and the choice, once you become aware of it, to let go, right? And
That's getting at what I was thinking about saying in asking ourselves, why should we let go? It's important to recognize that there are different kinds of letting go and different ways of letting go. Some are more skillful and helpful than others. And there's also a couple different ways to ask the question. So why we let go, there's sort of the why should we let go and why do we let go? What is it that makes the letting go happen? And the reason we should let go is because clinging is stressful. If you just observe what your experience is like when you're clinging, you will find an amount of psychological tension and stress and anxiety in it, even though that also comes with some delight. And this is what often blocks the ability to let go, is there's something alluring or attractive about what we're clinging to, even if it's causing us suffering. So there's a language in around these things in the scriptures that the earliest Buddhist teachings are written in. And one of the phrases that's been helpful to me is that in clinging, it's just suffering that we're clinging to. So it helps me when I need to let go to ask myself, why am I clinging to this? What am I getting out of it? And then the letting go happens when I recognize that what I'm getting out of it is not worth the suffering that I'm going through for it. And then the letting go can just happen. In this body of literature, there's also like degrees of letting go, where there are specific individual things that we let go of, and then there's the big letting go that happens at the end of the path. And I think it's important for everybody to know what stage that they're at and not to aim too high too soon, because only letting go results in a lot of chaos. And so it's important to have a good idea of what I need to be holding on to right now and what I need to be letting go of right now.
Yeah, I'm smiling right now because you mentioned the word clinging and cling and all the rest. Well, what the Americans call saran wrap, we call cling film. And it literally clings onto something, and it, to get at it, sometimes you have to go through a lot of peeling. So clinging to me is something that sounds suffocating. It sounds like it's keeping it contained. And in order to let go, you have to recognize that perhaps sometimes you are contained. And maybe you could open a window somewhere, or, a door over there, or
Yeah, clean film, is that what you call it? Film?
like film, we call
Yeah.
it.
It
Yeah.
makes it sound kind of gross, but
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it serves a purpose, right? It keeps the food fresh and
Fresh and
and um,
contained and
and able to
contained.
use later, right? So
Yeah.
cleaning does have a purpose
Yeah.
uh, on the path, and the practice that the Buddha describes is one of letting go in stages. So when we recognize that we can grasp on to something higher and better, then we let go of what is lower and less worthy. So that's why Hannah mentioned that letting go is at the core of so many traditions and meditation practices. At least that's the core that um, we like to emphasize, the way mindfulness has developed in the West. And the traditions that I study and practice and talk about letting go or abandoning and developing. And these things have to happen in tandem and balance each other. So one example I think about is perhaps letting go of the hurt or resentment that comes with a betrayal or a breakdown in a relationship. That letting go happens for me by developing a life after, by developing a life that I want to live, in which I can heal from the hurt and the pain. That's quite different than just saying, oh, it's in the past. It can't touch me anymore. It doesn't bother me. That can become a kind of contrived letting go. And when we rely on that, we'll find we let go and then we grab it again, and we let go and then we grab it again. But when we have something that is actually nourishing and fulfilling, that letting go um, is done.
And in order to let go, you have to first acknowledge it and then sit with it. Sit with the pain of where you're feeling in your body, where you're holding on to it, and also making some choices about letting it go. You can't just choose to let it go. And what are you going to do? You've been holding on to it for all this time. It's a choice, and then you put steps in place. One tool that I like to use is The Work by Byron Katie. This is investigating your belief around what you're holding on to, and what will happen when you let go. And some people have the worst idea of what could happen when they let go, but investigating your thoughts is really helpful in just kind of looking at, is there a possibility of there being peace at the end? And there oftentimes is.
But sometimes you don't know what the outcome's going to be, though, in order to recognize that something needs to be let go of. It's like the Goldilocks syndrome. You're not holding on to it too tight, not too loose, just right. And in order to kind of trust and be part of that process, you might get a few rope burns. But it's about excavating. How do you say that word? Extricating yourself from like this warm piece of chewing gum that you've just stood on in the sidewalk. Sometimes it can take such a long time to actually free yourself from that. Sometimes you're always going to end up with residue. So I think you have to be a little bit kind to yourself during the process of letting go, to accept the way it is letting go.
Kimberly, I love the way that you describe things. I can see how you're a storyteller. It's very visual. Thank you. The chewing gum. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
You just look at it, watch people, you see them kind of, and then they go back, and then they go back.
Yeah. There are also other ways of letting go in terms of letting go of your thoughts during a meditation. And so oftentimes people think that meditation is about erasing your thoughts. And actually, meditation is about noticing your thoughts and turning your awareness back to your anchor, which could be your breath or sensations in your body. And so when you're wanting to release the thoughts or let go of those thoughts, um, just noticing them is, I'm just shifting a little bit the aspect of letting go, but noticing your thoughts is mindfulness. So becoming aware of what's coming up and then turning your awareness back to your anchor, your breath is often for me. But Jonathan said, as soon as you turn your awareness away, it comes right back, right? And then you keep coming back to it. It's like a game, and it's a practice until you just, oh, and so gentle with yourself. Like, oh, I notice I'm thinking this, coming back to the breath. Oh, there it is again, coming back to the breath. And when you detach from the need to slip into that quote unquote Zen state, or the gap that Deepak Chopra says, like the space between your thoughts, when you kind of detach from that and allow yourself to just be in the present moment, and to play the game, the sweet game of like noticing your mind is busy and then coming back to your anchor. There's some freedom there. And so always being with, um, allowing things to be as they are, and then letting go of that attachment to, for things to be just completely silent in the mind, which is not really realistic.
That brings it back to kind of equanimity, doesn't it? Because you have to reunite your mind and your body using your breath as one kind of unit in order to know which bits of your body are holding on to something and which bits are actually more spacious than others.
It's interesting to me, Steph, that you mentioned we shouldn't get too hung up on an attachment to silence in the mind, because sometimes meditation just isn't like that. And I kind of think that it is often a fear of silence in the mind that keeps us clinging to things. It's interesting to investigate, why is it so hard to let go of thoughts when I'm meditating, or when I meditate, they come right back. Even something as simple and slippery and vanishing and ephemeral as a thought is something that we just don't want to let go of. And I think that there's a fear of an undefined space, or of being undefined, where the mind is always looking for something to attach to absorb into, to give it a sense of being. We want to know what our limits are, what our boundaries are, um, where I can stay safe, what I can protect. And I think one challenge to letting go is that we imagine, if I let go, that I'm gonna lose something. And I have a little story of my own to share about this. I was well, actually, first, to give it some context, my teacher Thich Nhat Hanh uses a simple story for teaching about letting go. He talks about, well, it's a story from a sutra, actually. So one day the Buddha is with some monks, and a farmer comes walking by who has lost his herd of cows. And he's very, very distressed that he can't find these cows because they're his livelihood. And so he asks the Buddha and the monks, "Have you seen my cows? I I'm going so crazy I can't find my cows. Where are they?" And the Buddha says, "Sorry, we haven't seen them. You might want to check in the other direction." After the farmer leaves, he says to the monks, "Do you know that you are the happiest people alive because you have no cows to lose?" So Thich Nhat Hanh takes that story, and he often reminds his students to release your cows.
Mhm.
So most of us don't own cows, but we have car payments, big houses.
We have
wanting
a
emotions.
herd of cattle in our heads, you know, in
Exactly.
our own fields up here. And we tend
Exactly.
to kind of go through our lives top heavy, like one of those bobbleheads, because that's where the weight of our thoughts is. And we don't kind of recognize, you know, and our body just goes along for the ride. It just goes, oh, you're going that way. Okay, we'll go that way. And so your mind is not there because there's a stampede going on up there. And you just have to learn to settle all those cattle, to just let them settle.
So I was thinking about this one day when I was staying at one of Plum Village's centers in Hong Kong. And this is on some land that used to be farmland, but had been converted to kind of rural residential area. And when they did that conversion, they just released the cows that were there. And now there are like feral cows just walking around the property. And I was sitting I was sitting on the steps one day, watching cows eat the lawn, and just a very, very short poem came to mind. It goes, I released all my cows, but they just sat there chewing. So there's a difference between grabbing onto something tightly and then just, if I let it go, it might just rest right there.
Well, we have a Scottish saying that say, now I will translate it after I've said it in Scottish. So it says, on yonder hill there stood a coo. It must have shifted because it's nae there new. Now it means on yonder hill there stood a cow. It must have moved because it's not there now. And so if you have all these thoughts or all these cows in your head, just allow them to shift out. Just give them a little bit of space so that they're not in that tight herd clumped together. I'll let them eat the grass.
Exactly, yeah. So there have been a few reminders about how important um, awareness of the body is in this practice. And that goes with some things that I've been saying about, in order to let go of one thing, it helps to have something better. And for me, that's the practice of being able to breathe and sit in my body in a way that creates feelings of rest and relaxation and ease and well-being. When I know that I can do that for myself at any moment that I need, I can let go of anything. So going through a difficult time in life, I find my mind just circling around it. Where do I feel that tension in my body? Can I relax that? Now that that is relaxed, can I breathe in a way that creates a feeling of ease and pleasure in my whole body? And okay, everything is okay in this moment. My mind is clear and settled now, and I can think clearly about what I need to do, rather than just going back and forth between the habitual emotional reactions, run away from this or desperately try and fix it. Let me make myself resilient and well right now, and then a better strategy will come to mind.
What's coming up for me as you all are sharing all of these thoughts is that there's a difference between this conscious awareness of what needs to be let go, whether it's physical tension or it's thoughts, um, and letting them go. There's a difference between that, the conscious awareness and letting go, and the pushing away and the ignoring. The I'm not dealing with that, which is not actually letting go. It's choosing not to engage, which is different. And one of the things that so that one of what I'm hearing in what you're saying is that the traps that we can fall into are the holding on, and the refusing to hold on. Like both of those are things that need to be let go of in order to reduce the suffering associated with them. And this, it sounds like from what you all are saying, one of the things I'm hearing is that it's so important to give yourself the space and the time to be with whatever is up for you, whatever it is that is causing you the suffering, whether it's physical or mental so that you can even begin to identify what's my relationship to this thing. and am I, like you were saying at the beginning, Steph, what am I, and Jonathan in other ways too, like what am I getting out of holding on to this, or what am I getting out of putting it to the side where I'm not looking at it, so that you can then make a conscious choice to release it, to choose something better, as you're saying, Jonathan. um,
And that can only happen in the here and now, because awareness is only here and now. So if you're still caught up clinging to whatever or resisting that, then you're going to miss it. You're going to pick up on the narrative of what you think you need, rather than getting in touch with what you need.
I would also say that without that process that you just described, Hannah, where like, say the other extreme where we just have a habitual tendency to quote unquote let go, that kind of letting go doesn't develop any wisdom or insight for us, because we're not actually learning what about this is causing suffering. Why am I drawn to clinging to this in the first place? Unless we're willing to, maybe suffer with something for a while until we understand it enough to realize letting go is the better thing to do and how to accomplish that letting go, then we just keep going through the cycle over and over again, with something else, with something else, with something else. So the point is to be able to observe how we're reacting to things differently, how we can change those reactions, so that we have insight and wisdom to bring with us going forward.
Mm-hmm. The fact you just said observe there, Jonathan, I always think that, drama and dharma share the same letters. And so if there's some kind of drama going on in the school playground with all the games, they're playing tug of war, stick in the mud, whatever they're doing. If you're embroiled in that, then you're embroiled in that void. You're in that void. And it's very difficult to observe, to see where you're meant to kind of release, to let go. So the best kind of thing is to extricate yourself, to lean against the school gates and watch it from there as an impartial viewer, as the drama, as the dharma unfolds.
We spoke about initially, Jonathan, what was the focal point of what we were letting go of? Because I know we moved it to the breath, to the thoughts during meditation, but Kimberly, do you remember what we initially talked about letting go of? Because there are different aspects of letting go, right? So I think that Jonathan had mentioned relationships. Is that right, Jonathan?
Just as an example, but I think the process applies to any kind of clinging.
It's quite often emotive as well. So you might be holding on to a piece of anger or a piece of resentment or shame or something like that, that's so well hidden beneath the cloaks and the heaviness that you carry around. And in order to get there, you do have to learn to be a stripper of sorts, to remove these layers one at a time in order to see what there is there, in order to let go anything. There might not be anything there to let go, but it might be there.
Right, but the reason I brought that up was because I thought again about a lot of folks have attachments to people and to people in their lives, how they should show up for them. And when they don't, there's a lot of suffering. So we're correct, in that the letting go is the same, but sometimes it feels different, being attached to an idea versus being attached to a person who we might associate safety with or comfort. And I would be interested in knowing, how do you all feel you can find freedom in letting go of someone who you're grasping, or who you're, grasping, clinging, but they are not giving you what you're wanting in the relationship.
I would make just one small change, in that it might not be that different, because the attachment isn't likely not to the person themselves, but to your idea of that person. um, the idea being, this is a person who should make me feel safe and validated and affirmed all the time.
And that's still that's clinging to the narrative of how you think things should look for you in order to kind of fulfill your needs. When you let it go, you're realizing that it's an inside job. It's something inside, internally, that you're bound to, that you're tethered to, that you need to untether yourself, to unbind yourself. So you can have all these opportunities externally from people, but it's always the narrative that you tell yourself about that situation, that circumstance, that's going to cling to your judgments, your opinions, your prejudices about that story, around that whole thing that's going to have you buckled and out of shape.
Yeah. As we prepared for this session, I have a relationship that I was trying to decide if I should let go of. And before this session, I chose to let go. And there was a lot of, I did definitely investigate it, like, why am I holding on? What am I afraid to lose? And when I let go, there was so much grief.
Mm.
And then after I cried it out, and there was some like, some exhaling going on, some freedom of like no longer needing to control the situation so that I could be happy, and noticing that the person that I needed to be a certain way in my life, I needed that for myself. I needed to fill my own cup in the way that I was looking outside of myself for them to fill my cup. And so I was really interested in how you all perceived something like that.
I'm experiencing something very similar right at this moment. So if anybody listening is too, yeah, feel for you and myself and anybody else. Everybody will go through, if they haven't already, something like this. And for me, it really brings everything together. One, this recognition that it's not a person that I'm clinging to, but an idea of a person. It's interesting even to think I should let go, because really this person, this relationship, once it gets to this point when I'm asking myself if I should let go, is already gone.
Mm.
It's already changed. And so when I ask myself, what am I really clinging to? It's back to that phrase from the sutra, it's just suffering that I'm clinging to. And there's this idea that if I don't torture myself about this, then I'm not honoring what was special about what was there in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that as an illusion, that I'm not honoring anything by torturing myself about this, can help that letting go, and celebrate, the specialness of whatever was there, and then get excited again about creating more specialness for myself in my life, perhaps in new ways with this person. That cow might be there, only it's decided to lay in the shade.
Flowers instead.
Exactly. Yes. So recognizing that actually, if you look at the stages of meditation that the Buddha taught in breath meditation, dispassion comes right after the contemplation of impermanence. So when you recognize that things are always changing and you have a real deep internalization of that fact, then letting go happens on its own. You cannot grasp onto a stream of water that's flowing. You recognize all I'm doing is creating tension in my hand and not getting any water out of it.
I have to write that down. That's a really good one.
And a river best crossed is best crossed at the origin. So if you have allowed that sadness, or that grief, or whatever, to manifest exactly the way it's meant without trying to suppress it or hold on to a little piece of it for the future, so you can revisit again. When you allow it just to kind of be sadness and just to let it rise, to express itself, to move on, then there's another emotion waiting stage left coming in for you. And sadness is running around backstage and is waiting there as well. It's going to come back. So it's how you manage and handle these things as they enter into your stage of this moment. So sit back with a big bucket of popcorn and go, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I like that idea, just being the noticer of what is.
Yeah.
Observer of what it is. That's where the freedom comes, right? You take action.
Oh, the freedom comes from recognizing when you are carrying the weight of an opinion or a judgment or a prejudice for yourself, for others, for the experience into every moment. That's an additional weight you're carrying. So it's about extricating yourself from these judgments, these opinions that you may or may not be carrying.
I'm curious if I want to make sure that there's an opportunity for those of you who are here with us live, if you've had any questions that have come up after this first part of the conversation, or any reflections that you'd like to throw in. I want to invite that from you now.
Good, I'm unmuted. I can do it myself. Yeah. No, just think. Here's my phone thing. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
This is a sign in a little coastal city of Bolinas, California, north of San Francisco. All we have is now. And that's what keeps me a new open window, NOW, or whatever it might be. But I have to do that. What I do is I create my own suffering. I have a Marita therapy. It's I love it. I mean, just one thing here about this person says, yeah, I have feelings just like you, but submitting to my whims or fancies or moods produces no satisfaction with myself or with life. Doing that produces little other than painful confrontations with reality, like deadlines, for example, rather than just doing the work. And so I tend to procrastinate, which is my devil. And now I'm 8 hours overdue on a report, and I'm telling him, I'll get it out here. But I come down to this crunch and it creates so much suffering. And it's self-created. And maybe there's a lot of things that are like that, but I don't know. I just have to do things rather than, I'm in my 70s and I think, oh, I should retire, Well, I can't retire right now. I got to I'm at my prime. So anyway, I'd rather be at the ocean. I'd rather be sitting here and going, constantly daily with you guys, But thanks for listening. It's just
You know that the word now, the word own, and the word one all contain the same letters.
Right.
So own now, and then you've won.
Love it.
Thank you, Tim.
It raises some good questions about what role can letting go really play in the life of a householder, somebody with a job and a family. And I have to remind myself often as I'm reading spiritual literature, especially the kind that I read, that the Buddha was talking mostly to renunciants, mendicants, people who wandered from place to place begging for food and had no responsibilities other than to live according to ethical precepts. And so not all of those ideals can be realized by people like us. And it is a life, that we're choosing. And I think it's just helpful to recognize as long as we're choosing this kind of life, it's going to come with an amount of stress. And the highest level of the teachings and practices, I believe, do lead to the ultimate cessation of all stress. But if you imagine what that would look like as a lifestyle, it would be very different than what we're living. So as long as we're living these lifestyles, they're going to come with some stress. And it's important for us to choose what kind of stress we're willing to put up with and what we're not.
Well, I really appreciate all of the perspectives the three of you have brought to this topic. And I'm curious, as we get close to the end of our time, I'd love to hear from each of you if there's something that you marinated on before this conversation, or that has come up for you during this conversation, that you want to be sure you get in before the end of the conversation. Anything that that you want to share as a closing thought. We'd love to hear it.
I think, just, we're speaking about letting go and relaxing and just being kind to yourself, just being a little bit soft with yourself and being curious. I mean, I say curiosity killed the chat.
Mm,
So be curious about the chat you tell yourself.
I love that. Really, that's good. I really enjoyed having this session with you all. And I just keep going back to freedom, freedom of attachment. And there's so much peace in that. Ultimately, all we want is to just be content and at peace. And you find that by letting go of anything that doesn't serve you, notice it. You have to notice it, investigate it, and then take action to, like Jonathan said, it's a choice. It's a choice to let go. It's a choice to hold on. It's a choice to be in this lifestyle. So always working towards that. Thank y'all.
Yeah, preparing for our time together, which I've enjoyed a lot. Thank you all for being here. I thought a lot about developing and holding on instead of letting go. So I would urge everyone to resolve to spend an amount of time every day letting go of sensuality, that is looking for pleasure in the realm of seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching and thinking, and develop the skill of dwelling at ease, calm, relaxed, and refreshed in the body. And those two things, if you develop them as strengths, will enable you to release stress when it's not serving a higher purpose for you.
I'm writing here the Goldilocks syndrome: not too tight, not too loose, just right. Just like this session.
Thank you all for those thoughts. What is coming up for me as we draw this conversation to a close, and coming back to that initial question of why is this so important? Why is this so central to so many of the ways that we teach meditation practice? And what I'm noticing is that we talk a lot about it because it's so opposite from the way we typically live our lives. And we typically live our lives trying to control anything that we can, whether it's other people and what they do in our relationships, like we're talking about, or if it's the outcome of a project or whatever. We put so much energy into trying to control. And this teaching of letting go is so much about acknowledging, as you've all said in different ways, that we have to be aware of what we're doing. We're trying to control something that can't be controlled. And so that's where the suffering comes in. If we could control it, then we wouldn't we wouldn't cause the suffering, but we can't. And so this practice of letting go puts us back in touch with what's true and what's real, which is that deeper acceptance of this is as it is, and I have a choice of whether I hold on or I let go. And that's the real choice I have, not this false choice of whether I can control this person's behavior or the outcome of the project or whatever it is. And I really appreciate how all of you have articulated so many ways we sort of try to fool ourselves into thinking that not letting go is the right move. And how we can help ourselves to recognize when letting go is what needs to happen and do it. So thank you so much for bringing so much heart and humor and wisdom to this topic today. And before we go, I would love it if each of you could just share where people can learn more from you, whether that's with your classes with us at Within, and other ways that you give of yourselves. Steph, let's start with you.
Thank you, Hannah. Thanks for having us today. I am meditateneworleans.com, and I'm the ambassador of wellness for the city of New Orleans. So you can find me through the city of New Orleans. You can also find me at Xavier University. I teach a course on mindfulness, and I have a weekly meditation in person, and also one session on within.com on Wednesday mornings at 10:30 a.m. CST. So that's 8:30 a.m. Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. How about you, Jonathan?
I teach a class called Living Deeply for Within at 8:30.
Saturday mornings.
8:30 on
8:30, you got it.
Pacific time. I've let go of not needing Google Calendar reminders from that. 8:30 Saturday morning Pacific time, I teach a class called Living Deeply. I also have a website called keepingthedharma.com where I offer courses and guided meditations from an early Buddhist and Plum Village and behavioral science perspective. You can also join a morning live session with a group I facilitate called the Sugar Plum Sangha on that website. And if you happen to have a kid who's in jail in Ukiah, I can teach him jujitsu or meditation with the Peaceful Warrior Project.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, Jonathan. How about you, Kimberly?
So speaking of letting go, the one thing I can't let go of is my Google Calendar. You know, I'm a woman of a certain age, and I'm telling you, in one ear, out the other. If I didn't have my Google Calendar, I wouldn't know where I was half the time. So I teach in person at a couple of different studios here in Houston, do some workshops and things like that. I also teach virtually with a studio called Unwind, and I teach with Hannah at Within on a Thursday morning at 10:30 CST, 8:30 Pacific time. So, and aside from that, I write. I'm a writer. So, and I tell stories. I do like telling a story.
Thank you all so much. It's really cracking me up that all of you are morning class teachers and that I hadn't put that together in the past. So if you're trying to build that meditation practice, that 8:30 a.m. Pacific, you get to sit with all three of you.
There you go.
Well, thank you for being a part of this conversation. And I look forward to having you be a part of future conversations as we explore more topics at Within. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a beautiful day.
Thank you very
you.
much.